By the way, cops, the government writes memos on all this. They're playing you like a fiddle. Go ahead, Paul.
So it's a perfect, I mean, they've tied up all the loose ends. It's perfect all round if you're a government control freak. More quotes out of Nazi Germany. As the war progressed, the numbers of children needing social and welfare services increased, and the directors of welfare facilities, orphanages, and other treatment centres were strongly advised to transfer children to designated state institutions and psychiatric hospitals. So, numerous examples of where it grew and grew, and even after the war, they were still killing children in these experimentation centres.
Oh, our government loved it and hired all of them and brought them over here.
After the children were committed, parents discovered how little control or influence they had over their children's lives. They had no choice about which institution or hospital their child was sent. Many children were sent so far from their homes, parental visits were difficult. And then it talks about how eventually the parents would just get a letter saying, oh, unfortunately your child died, here's the urn, here's the ashes, and that was the end of it. There was, I mean, a lot of parents...
They would always say, with hundreds of thousands, it was always appendicitis.
Yeah, or influenza.
Yeah, the appendix ruptured. It's the same thing here. They come to the black women and they say, we'll take your 2-year-old if you don't sign the 8-year-old over. And they take them to a medical facility and they murder them. I mean, it is unbelievable. Again, this government is criminal and bankrupt and isn't... But meanwhile, they're coming now to say, your carbon footprint, oh, your child, oh, your neighbor saw you hugging your child. I mean, what has happened to us that we're allowing this, Paul?
Well, I was going to say, even in Nazi Germany, there were thousands of furious parents that tried to go to court and tried to get answers, and obviously it was a dictatorship, but I suppose they're having more of a reaction than Americans or British people are now.
Yeah, people like to blame the Germans for letting tyranny come, but in a lot of cases they fought more than we did. Hey, look, cops who like to rape kids and government people, CPS workers, you're still getting shot up with mercury, too. You're still being fed fluoride water. God, you look at these CPS people, and video after video online where parents have cameras in the house, it's always the same. It's always, you can just look at them, they're pedophiles, these big, fat, ninnying pieces of crap. We'll be right back.
Well, I'm not the kind to kiss and tell, but I've been seen with Farrah. I've never been with anything less than a 9.
Hey, Paul, you ought to...
I've been on fire.
Remember about 3-4 months ago, it was in the AP, WorldNet Daily, but we actually got the court ruling, state Supreme Court in California, and it said children do not have control of their children. The state owns them. We are banning homeschooling. And you have no right, the state will control your children. I mean, look, just like in Europe, they say we don't want the European Union, it expands. Just like we say here, 90+%, both parties, we don't want open borders, it continues. The government is a bunch of rogue criminals. They try to PR sell you that black uniforms and checkpoints and cameras are good. They got a bunch of mindless idiots working for them. And we're being taken. They're going for broke right now. They're shooting for 1,000,000 miles, knowing that if they hit us from every angle, they'll get 1,000,000 miles. Or so what? If we fight back, they get 500,000 miles. I mean, they are just taking 1,000,000 steps. We push them back 1. They are just frothing, mad dog, crazy. And, I mean, hundreds of articles a year with the UN kidnapping, murdering children, burning them over fires, photos of them torturing them to death, all over the country doing medical experiments on little kids. I mean, God, we have got a completely criminal group running things, Paul.
That's right. The way they get it done is also the complicity of the corporate media. I mean, you can barely turn on Fox News without seeing another Amber Alert or something. I mean, in the UK, every single major child abduction case is just given absolute saturation coverage to the point where now I go to the supermarket or the shopping mall or whatever, and parents have got their children, like, harnessed up in these I don't know what you call them, they're like straitjackets with elastic bands, and they tie themselves to their own kids in absolute panic that, you know...
Meanwhile, you've got all the numbers how it's way down.
Yeah, it's way down since the 70s, and then you've got charities the supposed children's charities manufacturing child abuse and child abduction numbers to get cash donations. So the numbers
it's real
are way
simple.
down.
It's a mafia. Any socialist government system wants to take control of the kids. Russia, China, Germany, England. The social workers were started for eugenics. Just go take a class in any science department in any university. All they're going to teach you is that humans need to be killed, need to be controlled. The Handgun Control Incorporated brags, says we have the children, we have the next generation through education, through public education. You pay to have your children taken away from you and literally destroyed, and to froth around getting sick with a bunch of other kids that are on a bunch of different antibiotics. And that's what public education is just a bankrupt, rotten system. We have their own government documents, and I've had the scientists and experts on to read the documents. It has been a 100-plus year plan to dumb your children down, close case. And now it isn't enough to just dumb them down. Now they've got to put half of them on drugs. Now they've got to split up the families. And now the state is saying, we run your children. I mean, that's it, Paul.
It's, as you said, they've basically declared war on pedophilia, and like any other war, like the war on drugs, they're the pedophiles, and as a result of the war on pedophilia, it's only going to increase because the pedophiles are running it. And I've got another quote here out in Nazi Germany. Quote, parents who refused to put their children into institutions were accused by these same officials of neglecting and depriving their children of needed treatment. Persistent refusal often resulted in threats. Parents were told that if they did not institutionalize their children, they would lose their guardianship rights.
And socialization. See, they always say you're abusing your child by putting them in a public school. They are drug dog, fences, cops. They are institutions. They are psychiatric, paramilitary death camps. Paul, I want to do 5 more minutes, and Wayne Madsen coming on. Paul, any other key areas you want to cover of this? You understand? You hug your children, you kiss them in public, the SWAT team's coming.